Hey guys, I wanted to show you an arcade machine I've been working on. I've owned this game for about 6 years, and 2 years previously before this one I owned another one. And both of these Robotron cabinets, this is Robotron 2084 by Williams, both of these that I've owned have been completely gutted, meaning there was no monitor, there were no boards for the game, and there was no power supply, there was no wiring. So I traded my other one for this one because this was so nice, and I actually did refinish a lot of the artwork on it to try, just touched it up very nicely. You can't even tell when you look at it in really good light. And then I resprayed the front of it, took the coin doors and everything off, and just refinished the whole front just to make it look nice and crisp. Okay, so first of all, since this doesn't have the original boards in it, what I've done is I put a hospital grade CRT monitor in this to try to keep that nostalgia of the original, CRT feel of the original arcade monitor. It is higher resolution, which, helps pixels show up a little more clearly, but however, it allows me to hook up an Xbox 360 to this. Now, in order for me to get controls to interface with an Xbox 360, because this is a twin stick shooting game, I had to find analog joysticks. Now, I found these analog joysticks from a Sega game that was in Japan, and I had to have them shipped all the way from Japan over here. I actually had to go through a broker to go through an eBay-type website called Buy-E over in Japan, and so this company had to purchase a control panel for me and then ship it to me on a boat all the way over here. It took about 4 months to go through both sets of customs, the boat, get to me in the mail, and everything. And then once I got them, I got these joysticks, and I was able to install these joysticks. Now, normally what they had in this was an 8-way switch joystick, and this is fully analog. So it actually has potentiometers down in there, and those potentiometers match the Xbox 360 controller. So I hacked an Xbox 360 controller, wired these bad boys up to it, and it gives me the ability to do this. Now, I also have had to add another piece of hardware in, and that is called the Cronus. The Cronus is a device that typically helps people to wire in a joystick, a mouse and a keyboard into like a console, so you can play console shooters with keyboard and mouse. And however, it allows me to work with the interface and change potentiometer values and that sort of thing with these joysticks to be able to control the PCB of the original Xbox 360 pad. So I know that's a lot of technical jargon, basically just to say that those joysticks would not natively work very well on this arcade machine directly to an Xbox 360 pad. So I had to find an interface that could hack in between myself, the joysticks, and the Xbox 360 to make sure that the controls were going to be fluid enough to be able to play the game. So this machine has been sitting for about 5 years complete, other than that device up until recently, and I've been really annoyed with the way that this game plays up until recently because of that device. I just learned about it, and it finally has made this thing complete. So, what we have here is an Xbox 360 version of Robotron. Now, this was kind of redeveloped, and they just added some skins onto the original game. It plays just like the original game. You can see here that I'm terrible at this one-handed. I'm sure anybody would be. Really need two hands to play this game. But Robotron it's you're a robot, and you're shooting other robots to save, quote unquote, the last living family on Earth. So anyway, this is basically Robotron. If you want to see the original, you can get on YouTube and go check out an original version of Robotron. However, one of the reasons that I wanted to put an Xbox 360 in this is because, first of all, I wanted an original twin stick shooting cabinet. What better way than to do it with Robotron 2084? It's one of the original twin stick shooters, if not the original, and using the Xbox 360 allows me to play Geometry Wars 2. And it's one of my all-time favorite games to play on any system, and it is just pure fun to me. I really enjoy this. I like the music. I like the control. I like the visuals. I like the concept. I love everything about Geometry Wars 2. It just strikes all the right notes with me. And I'm sure it does a lot of other gamers too. Geometry Wars was originally a test bed for an original Xbox game called Project Gotham Racing. Way back in the day, probably early 2000s, 2001 actually, possibly. And so the gentleman, one of the guys that was writing code for that game, wrote a test bed, created a little arcade game. He actually coded the game into the Project Gotham Racing Xbox game and created a garage to be able to showcase the cars, and then put this arcade in the corner of the garage. So you could actually walk up to this arcade in the game and play the game. Then, years later, when the Xbox 360 came out, about 15 years ago, they created Geometry Wars 1 and then Geometry Wars 2. Geometry Wars 2 is only on the Xbox 360. So, I had to use an Xbox 360 to be able to play this game. In my opinion, this is the best version of the game. There is also a third version, a Geometry Wars 3, and it uses more of a three-dimensional style of play where you have three-dimensional playfields to play on rather than the solid 2D playfield that you play in Geometry Wars 1 and 2. So, just to show real quick what this game looks like, is it's kind of a manic bullet hell shooter, but it's the same idea as Geometry Wars. You have one stick for control, and then one stick for shooting. This is basically a more updated Geometry Wars and Robotron. It's just so much fun to play. I really, really enjoy this. So this arcade also can play a host of other twin stick shooters, which is like Halo Spartan Assault and Smash TV and Total Carnage. And it also plays Gyrus and Sinistar, and it plays, goodness gracious, let's see, plays Gyrus pretty well, and it's just really, really cool for all these twin stick shooters. They ported several of the old arcade games to the Xbox 360, so I was able to download those and put these in. Now this is Xbox Live connected, and so I actually have to have this cabinet wirelessly connected to the internet to be able to play and to play the games and to be able to save high scores and log into my gamer score and all that fun stuff. So anyway, I wish I had the cabinet pulled out a little better. The graphics are really, really nice on this machine actually, but I've got this other little weasel of a Neo Geo game sitting next to it back in this corner room in the house. So anyway, totally stoked, super excited that this is working really well now. Those of you guys that get to come over and play this thing, I hope you enjoy it. And I hope any of you that have seen this video enjoy the video. So, game on.